Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
And welcome to the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler and Dan Hill and Evan Barnard, and we're having way more fun than we ought to be having.
It's behind the scenes.
Especially for an investing
This is
show.
really fun. Yes. Yeah, you guys, somehow we have to capture the in-between segments on this show.
No.
We
As
need another
outtakes.
attorney.
That part.
We need another attorney.
I can just keep it
Our
rolling.
attorney'd fire us.
That's really funny. That is really funny. So, before, and I had to rush that last segment of the last hour. So I was doing the thing on 5 signs it could be time to fire your advisor. And this is something that there was an article that was out there. Apparently a few people had read about it and asked Dana about it at the front desk here at our office. And a couple of questions, they're fiduciary. They better keep your best interest first. Yep, absolutely. Then they dismiss your input. If they dismiss your input, that's a problem. And the problem is that, of course, if you're giving input and you don't, and the input, as some input is fine. But if you're saying, this is the asset class I want more, I want you to load up a little bit more on this. I want to own a little bit more real estate. I've had people say, I want healthcare stocks because Americans are getting older. I've had people say, I'd like to own some real estate in the portfolio. Can we put gold in the portfolio? They'll ask for things like that. And we'll say, okay, if we put that in there, then we are no longer fiduciary. So negate point number 1. Then they're difficult to reach. You want to be able to reach them, but you don't want to reach them to go and change the portfolio because you just got scared because the market went down, or you became euphoric because the market just went up and you want to add more stocks, or you want to, change your asset mix because of that. Then again, they're negating their duty to be a fiduciary. They don't give you details was another one. Yeah, absolutely. They ought to be able to give you details. We love educate. No question. 5th point, they don't take time to get to know you. Yeah, I
would agree with that one. For
I
sure.
totally agree. That's the one I completely agree with. They need to know. You need to know a lot about the client. What are their goals? What are their dreams? What assets they have? Is there a possibility of an inheritance in the future? What do they want to have happen? They have kids. They want to have kids inherit, money. In what form? Can they handle the money? Do they have the ability, the wherewithal to handle money? Some kids will have that wherewithal. Some kids won't. Some kids are very responsible. Some are irresponsible. And do we change things based on that? How long are they going to work? What's the likelihood that they may become unable to work because of cognitive disabilities or whatever? Yeah, so there are a lot of things that you want to know. What their Social Security benefits, making sure that you know exactly what those benefits are so that they're allocating assets properly, but also taking Social Security to their greatest advantage. So,
Yeah, I would almost put reason 5 as part of the client putting input into the portfolio. Meaning,
I thought you were going to say that you'd put it there because that's what a fiduciary would do. But okay, go ahead.
To me, all of that conversation
is. I
around
see what you're
point
saying.
5
Yeah.
is the input that the client needs to put into the creation of the portfolio.
Absolutely.
When am I going to spend it? What's my money background? Did I inherit this? Was I an entrepreneur and I started with 0 and now I've got 4 mil? To me, that's the client input of the entire process.
Yeah, no question. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, Dane?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think point 5 should be point 1.
That's...
Yeah.
I mean, fiduciary,
Well said.
like I said, you can say you're fiduciary and still not really be a fiduciary. Right? You got the label, but you're not practicing it. But you got to know their story.
Well, I've
before
seen
you can
firms.
go anywhere.
I've seen firms, and I know lots of them around here, that everybody has to have an annuity. That's part of the requirement.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The trifecta.
Yeah,
Annuity,
everybody's got to have. I remember
Sprinkle a little
Jonathan.
this.
Jonathan Walker telling this story of
Yeah.
a financial
Yep.
advisor they worked with, right? And Jonathan worked hard and long at putting together a financial plan for the client. And the planner, because he worked for one of the banks,
Right.
and the planner said, this one gets an annuity, this one gets a mutual fund. That was it.
Right.
Hey, so you didn't even look at the plan I came up with. Doesn't matter. This one gets annuity. This one gets a mutual fund. And he had a certain things that he was supposed to sell.
I worked at that same bank and probably left for the same reasons.
Did you really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Because everybody's got to have one. No story. What's your story? I got $600,000. Boom. Here's a product for you. They're product salesmen. There's no planning. There's no conversation.
Yeah.
This is where I put my money. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
Good point. Good point.
You're bringing back horrible.
So that pretty much. Okay, I'm done with that arc. What do you got, Evan?
Well, this is kind of dovetailing off of that as it gets to understanding your client. And
Wait. I promised I would say where it came from.
Wait a minute.
Thank you very much for remembering.
Right.
Here.
It came from
Cosmo.
No. It came from a company that bugged the tar out of one of our guys to sign up to be an advisor, a recommended advisor.
Oh.
So what they do is they write articles like this, and they say to find a vetted advisor, or whatever term that they use. I'm not going to use the same exact term because you'll go find out who it is. To find a vetted advisor that is, a great advisor, we'll give you 3 or 4 advisors in your area that meet our criteria. Well, I just wanted to point out that the criteria really stunk.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead, Evan.
And they shall remain nameless.
Yeah. We might go back to that, actually.
That's funny. Okay.
Thinking about education and being a fiduciary and explaining things to clients and them understanding it. Obviously, this will be a nameless email that I'm going to read from a client.
Okay.
Was touching base with a client. They'd been retired and, so forth. Just more of an annual review conversation.
Uh-huh.
And we made some changes based on stuff that made total sense. We weren't adding gold or going to cash. Just plans have changed. Their bucket's grown X.
Plan changes, you make changes to the plan. Yep.
Hello, Evan. We enjoyed our time with you last month. I forgot to ask you, with our Roths now allocated at 85% equity and 15% fixed, what are our expected nominal returns and standard deviation? Thanks again for your help. And so, that's the kind of stuff we talk about with our clients. And okay, this is what you should be expecting. And here's the, this is the volatility. And we didn't touch on that. I mean, they've been a client for a long time.
Right.
But that's the kind of stuff they wanted. And I saw that email and said, I've got to read that on the show because
that's fantastic.
It just warmed my heart.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So those of you who don't know what on earth Evan just said, that's something you need to know.
You should be one of our clients.
Yeah. So the point is when we talk about investing, you have two sides. Sometimes people will only look at return. That's the only thing that they look at when you've got to look at risk. Because when you have a standard deviation, which is how you measure risk, that is too high, the ups and downs are too high. When you're taking income from a portfolio, you can literally run it into the ground. 2 portfolios, one that has an expected return, let's say just 10%. I'm just going to use that. And then you have a second portfolio with an expected return 10%. Now, just because they have the same expected return does not mean that they will deliver income the same way.
Right.
Because the one that has higher volatility, you could run it into the ground. The other one would be just fine if you ignore the standard deviation or the volatility of the portfolio. And the client knew that, which is really cool.
And knew the standard deviation of the old portfolio. And we just did, we didn't nail it down. But that's the kind of level of detail that gives people peace of mind. And when you do have a dip for a quarter or even Bitcoin does great, gold does great, whatever, the phone don't ring.
That's right. You don't get worn out with, I'm scared, what's going on?
Yeah.
And and we don't mind if somebody calls up and they've forgotten.
For sure.
It's okay. We're not saying don't call us. Just saying, it is something that if you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, what to expect, and those types of things, you don't worry like
you don't need to call.
People tell us all the time, we just don't worry. NAR finds share of first-time home buyers is smaller, older than before. This is interesting what's going on. I was listening to something on CNBC, and I'll cover it again in just a second, but what they were saying on CNBC, they were talking about people's fears and things that are going on, what people are worried about. And it says, how do we get across to people that the economy isn't as bad as they think it is? How do we get that across? Why is that people have this belief that the economy is so bad and that there's so many problems out there when, you really look at it and things aren't that bad? That's the point. This is regular media, CNBC, one of the regular channels, right?
Right.
They're going through and they're talking about it. And the guy that was on with them just goes, well, I'll tell you, NAR finds share of first-time home buyers smaller. He didn't necessarily reference this particular article, but the data in the article he did reference, which basically says this. At just 26%, the share of first-time homebuyers was the lowest since NAR began tracking the data. The typical first-time buyer was 36 years old. I don't know when you guys bought your first place. I know I was
26.
like 26.
I think I was
It's 36
23.
now. It's an 23?
I think so.
It's an all-time high. It is an all-time high right now. These people, they says the median distance between the home that recent buyers purchased and the home from which they moved, so this is if they did own a home before, was 50 miles. And it says the shares of homes purchased in small towns, 29% rural areas, 19% were at all-time highs. And I'm thinking, that's kind of good, though, because they'll probably become more conservative, don't you think? Yeah. If they're buying homes in smaller towns. But in all seriousness, it says when compared to a year ago, the share of first-time home buyers dropped to a record low, while the share of it says while the age of the typical first-time home buyer increased to an all-time high, median distance buyers moved from their previous homes more than tripled. And they said basically what's going on here is even if you look at second-time buyers in this article, they pointed out they actually it climbed. The typical repeat buyer's age, 59 years. 59 years. And you think about that, I don't know when you guys bought your second home, but I'm sure it wasn't 59.
No.
I mean, I may have been, oh man, maybe 30?
You mean
30?
your second primary residence,
Yes.
not your second lake house?
Yeah, no.
Second home.
Moving from where we lived
Yeah.
and moving
Well,
up to the
got it.
next
I got
house
it. Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
probably age 30.
I've probably had
And-
a dozen houses.
So you ask, and a dozen? Okay.
Probably.
So the point that I'm making is that these people are saying, well, why is it that people are concerned, about the economy? It's this. This is an issue. A lot of people are concerned about real estate. Younger people especially thinking, I'll never be able to afford a home.
Yeah.
And let
Yeah,
me
go
just
ahead.
add a perspective of a more middle-aged person than
Mm-hmm.
you two youngsters. So one of the things I like is you cited the source last time, because a lot of it has to do with the source. We all know that we can take statistics and make them sing whatever song we want them to sing. Me having two 36 and 38-year-old sons, that has changed, okay, with Evan's son being one of the exceptions.
What has changed?
Kids aren't getting married that young, 30 and having children.
Yeah. That's true.
Yes,
Okay,
that is
so
true.
interest rates do play a part of it, but nowadays kids. I coached baseball for 27 years, as you know, and a lot of my kids, my sons, are having babies now, and they're all right around 30 years old. Okay, so that I just want to throw that out there because it's changing. And to go back to when you asked when did I buy my first home, and I use this when I'm teaching classes. What was the interest rate when I bought my first home at 23, 4, 5, whatever it was?
12.
13.5.
13. Yeah.
And was I going to just live in a car or stay with my mommy? No, I was going to go out and get a house. And then,
It is, and you just said interest rates, but that's not what they said was the reason here, Dan. The reason they said that people are not buying is, interest rates was part of it,
Right.
but it was historically low inventory. Because you have people that are locked into 2% mortgages that won't leave their house. They won't sell their house. So it wasn't that the interest rate's too high, it's that people won't sell their houses and there just aren't the houses to buy, was one thing. And because of that, the persistently high prices, the prices are higher now than they were even a couple of years ago.
Well, relatively speaking, like I said, my first home was $59,000, $700 a month at 39%. I was scared very much that I would be able to make that $700. Now I wish I had it, but that house today probably sells for over $500,000, or a house like it. 100 of them being built behind my current house here in Spring Hill are $500,000. 5 years ago, I bought mine for $300,000.
Right.
So it's just.
So, question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are we saying here? Don't buy homes?
No.
Well, no. The point is that what I thought was interesting is that the commentator on the TV show was like, the economy's great, everything's wonderful. Why would people have any unrest? And why would there be anybody that's even worried about the economy at all? And
Gotcha.
and the point being that there are always things that that are going on, this is one of the things that people are concerned with right now.
Yeah, and again, it depends on where you're at. We happen to be in this market, which is one of the top markets in the United States. I think Murfreesboro ranked number 16 in a study that I just saw, and Clarksville was number 23. At one time a few years ago, Nashville was 3, and when we say Nashville, we mean Murfreesboro to Clarksville. So, like I said, they're building 100 houses behind me. There was a little pause a few years ago, but it's the young 30-year-old couples with 2 kids that are buying those $500,000 houses at 7% because they don't want to live in their car.
Well, the data basically says that the first-time home purchase is actually significantly up. Whatever the reason, it is significantly up because people are waiting a lot longer.
Yeah, and Mom said
a lot of them are saying it's because of those economic issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go figure. Who knows? And there is a point to be made. What you're saying, Dan, is that there's a lot of research from the psychological side that says that what is happening with kids is that there's one guy, and I think his guy is a fairly conservative guy in that field, and basically what he says is that kids are actually dealing with a lot more complexity today than ever before. And what's happening is it's taking them longer to develop. He's talking about brain development. He's a brain development guy. Yeah. And he talks about, they actually do a lot of research on how the brain develops. And it's, the point being that you're born with the brain, but it literally continues to develop, but it's taking a little bit longer. So that bodes to your point that people are getting married a little bit later, for that reason as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's interesting. I don't know. Listening to the Investor Coaching Show, Paul Winkler, Dan Hill, and Evan Barnard. And we'll be right back after this. Stay tuned. Hey, guys, if you want specific advice for your unique situation, schedule a free 15-minute phone chat with one of our trusted advisors by going to paulwinkler.com/call. We don't sell any products, and our advisors don't make any commissions, so this isn't a sales call. We have a coaching process that helps you understand investing and relax about money. Don't put blind trust in anyone with your financial assets. We want to partner with you in the process so you know what you're doing and why. We manage assets on a fee-only basis, which means that when you do well, we do well, which aligns our interests with yours from the start. We also bring you into the financial planning process that gives you a clear plan so you can find the freedom to pursue your purpose. All our advisors are degreed planners too, with years of experience. So schedule a free 15-minute phone call with an advisor by going to paulwinkler.com/call. All right, we're back here on the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler, Dan Hill, and Evan Barnard talking money and investing. Okay, so go ahead, Evan. Your chum.
Well, yeah, since we were talking about younger home buyers, I thought I'd go to the other end of that pendulum. And crypto marketers have a new target audience: your mother. Firms are racing to promote new Bitcoin exchange-traded funds to baby boomers. Is Bitcoin a safe investment for baby boomers? The answer, according to a growing wave of ad campaigns, is a resounding yes. The campaigns follow the SEC's January 10th approval of the first U.S. exchange-traded funds that directly hold Bitcoin. And so, here's some of a script from one of the ads that's up there. How can I buy Bitcoin? A contact labeled mom texts in a promotional video from investment firm Van Eck, which posted it on X on January 10th. It's easy now, her child texts back. There are ETFs. Wow. Thank you, Pumpkin, Mom writes, adding a cluster of heart, smiley face, and other emojis.
And then when you lose your money, you're going to smash that pumpkin.
Yeah.
There you go.
Another Van Eck post describes baby boomers as the best generation in the world and Bitcoin as a way to help protect them from government devaluation of their hard-earned money. And so, here we've come through this wave, and we had, 60% decline in all these digital currencies that just went away. I don't even think Bankman-Fried has even been sentenced yet or something. I've lost track of the case. But Wall Street, there was another headline. I won't dig into this article as much, but it just says Wall Street gets laser eyes in bid for Bitcoin ETF bucks. And the point is, what we talk about all the time is it doesn't matter if it's good or bad for the investor. If there's an appetite for it out there, this kind of gets back to the whole fiduciary conversation, really. But if people
give the people what they want,
are wanting to buy this Bitcoin, or even people that don't know about it, they'll craft enough ads that somebody's mom's going to go buy Bitcoin and get wiped out. And are they going to want to put mom in their basement when, the house is gone, kind of a deal?
I have another question. So has anyone done a study on these people that's buying this Bitcoin? Are they trying to get away from government funds, meaning cash flow that's normal? Or
did you hear
saying
the
it's gonna
segment
be
in
reversed?
Leviticus on? I did a thing on Gary Gensler a couple of weeks ago, and it was a quote. It was hilarious. I wish I could pull it right up again. I don't think I could find it that fast. But basically what he said, he's the SEC chairman, and he says, well, we don't really endorse this. And it was something I'm paraphrasing. And we don't really, the SEC is not endorsing this by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, we have, a lot of evidence that this is being used for nefarious purposes and for, laundering of money and illegal activity. He named a bunch of things.
Right.
That it was being used for. And, so the SEC is pretty clear that they're not crazy about this whole idea.
Yeah,
but they approved it.
But that's what it's being used for. That was his point.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Yeah, but for these grandmas or baby boomers Evan's talking about, it's the shiny new object.
Some people are using it because they think it's an investment.
Right.
Obviously.
It's like you said, advertising Bitcoin to hear it. Tom Brady's talking about it. Matt Damon's talking about it.
I'll be interested
so on
to
and so
hear
forth.
if there's any Bitcoin ETF ads next week on the Super Bowl.
Negative, Ghost Rider.
You don't think so?
Not after last year. I don't think
You
so.
don't think so?
I don't think so.
You're not spot Bitcoin
Nah.
ETFs, anything like that?
No idea.
Let's make up. Maybe
I mean,
we
so you know
should
what a
have
spot
that.
Bitcoin is. The idea that's what they just came out with is a spot Bitcoin, which is the idea that what you can do is because before you were using futures and you weren't owning the underlying, and you had a derivative. They were derivatives. In other words, the value of it was derived based on the underlying Bitcoin. Now they actually have Bitcoin ETFs that own Bitcoin, is the idea. And when it was issued, I'm trying to remember what date it was that it was actually issued. But if you look at what happened, I mean, this is a really good. How's this for a picture, guys? I'll swing my computer around so you can see what happened since that was issued. Straight down, straight down. Negative. The
Looks like a yo-yo.
iShares Bitcoin Trust. You bought it and you paid $10,000, and now it's worth.
And it's gone.
It's not gone. But you lost. Went down to $9,800.
Yeah.
Your $10,000 becomes $9,800. Bam, just like that, and it's not gone, but it's down. So safety. I don't know.
So you can bet on everything in the Super Bowl, the coin toss, and so we should have a bet on whether there's going to be any Bitcoin commercials. I say no.
Okay.
After last year's fiasco,
We'll see
You'd probably be better off, betting on AFC, NFC.
Right.
As we talked about earlier.
Just thinking about it, because the reason I bring this up is Bitwise, which is kind of like an FTX. It's a exchange or producer. They've released a video ad using Jonathan Goldsmith, who, if you don't know his name, is famous for being the most interesting man in the world in the Dos Equis ads.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know who that was, but I know I have
so
seen the ads on
and the ad
financial
is
channels.
It's very short script. It's like,
It's my friend.
Bitcoin.
You're going
this
to be
is
interesting.
great to find out.
You're going to be interesting. You're going to be unique.
Yeah. But they're appealing to a different market segment than kind of the hipsters that launched Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think
so here's his motive. The guy, the most interesting man in the world. Based on that chart, just figure this out.
Being paid to do ads? Is that what you're talking about, that
he wants
motive?
you to go to Bitcoin, watch your money disappear. It's going to make you buy more Dos Equis.
There you go.
Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. You want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. You can watch some of the videos there, and if you're not already a client, you can set up a free initial consultation. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.